Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors. I'm really excited about my guest today, Heather Turner, who is the Marketing Director for Dow Packaging and Specialty Plastics. Hi, Heather. How are you?
Hi, Cory. I'm doing great. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for taking some time. I've been wanting to interview you guys for a long time. You're working on some very innovative, sustainable packaging materials and concepts.
We are. It's a really fun time to be a part of this industry, I'll admit. So,
I agree. Totally.
yeah,
Can you tell us, let's start with you first. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up at Dow
sure.
and focusing on sustainable packaging?
Yeah, I joined Dow 20 years ago. I had my anniversary this summer.
Oh, congratulations.
I joined after my MBA, and I came more from a nonprofit liberal arts background. And so this was a big transition to come into a technology, chemistry based company, but I have loved it. So even though I'm not technical, I have such great regard for my colleagues that are. And I just love how science really can solve problems in our everyday lives. And so I have had a variety of market jobs over the years and mostly in our plastics business. And so very aware of all the good that plastics can do, but also very aware of heightened concerns by consumers. And so what I've loved is my last couple of years, I've been in roles that are really specific in packaging as well as really collaborating to deliver sustainable solutions for packaging. And so that is really one of my passions. This summer, I took a new role where I have actual marketing responsibilities for our films that go into industrial and consumer packaging. So pretty much anything that's non-food. And all of those materials and applications are recyclable. And so I just think it's such a priority for us to ensure that people understand they're recyclable and that they help us get them recycled so we can use them and understand their value. And so that's a little bit about me. And, my kids are probably the most well-informed about recycling because we really try to live it at home too.
I absolutely agree with you. This is oftentimes an education issue, and people don't know. And when I say people, I mean consumers,
Yes.
like us, don't know that a lot of things are recyclable. And same here. And my kids will ask me, or my wife will ask, "Hey, can we recycle this?
Yes.
Is this corrugated approved?"
Which I love that term, corrugated. That is awesome. I've got to come up with something that I can tie into my name.
We'll come up with one for you too.
Okay, thank you.
So big day coming up. November 15th is America Recycles Day. Why is it an important day? What are we supposed to do on this special day? Tell us about the idea.
Absolutely. Well, with most special events, really they are in place to bring attention to the event or the activity. And so Keep America Beautiful organized America's Recycle Day, and it's usually November 15th, and this year it is, and it's just a way to bring awareness to the need to recycle. And they have the hashtag Be Recycled, and they really encourage consumers and just members of society to reuse, to reduce, to recycle, and to be more aware of how to use things and make sure that they get reused and the value of them. And so it's a day to bring attention to recycling and give it focus. It's also a day to celebrate, to show maybe how far we've come, also maybe have some hard discussions about what we still need to do because there's so much. And it's, to your point, to educate. There, so many people don't understand like the value of recycling, how you can do it besides just maybe putting in your bottle or can in a recycle bin on the curb, and the value, like what it can go into, and how there's a market for it and needs and uses for it. And so to me, that's the biggest and the most important thing. So America Recycles, it's a day, but really you hope it's like becomes more of a lifestyle. And so that's, the desired outcome from it. And so what should we be doing? Hopefully folks like you and I will help educate our friends. And
Right.
I know our team will have, messaging and things. 2 years ago, before pre-COVID, we're going to have like BC, we're going to have like PC, so pre-COVID, my daughter was in fifth grade and I had the opportunity to go in and teach the whole fifth grade. There were about 150 kids and their teachers all about recycling. And it was so energizing. And even the teachers like, we didn't know you could take your films and your bags back to the retailer, just things like that. So finding ways to share and help educate, I think will be the most important things we can do around America's Recycles Day.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I think you and I might be unique that we're really excited about this. But I would like to continue to push and tell everybody that's interested about this and educate and show them about store drop off and show them how
Yes.
plastic can be reused thousands of
Yes.
times. It's important.
It is. And just a few other things so from Dow, we'll have some events that week that you'll be a part of, but there are also other events that go on around the same time to really build consensus. So one thing we do is called Pulling Our Weight, and it's actually, a national program with Ocean Conservancy about cleanup. And so we actually do it globally as employee bases and go work, and clean up and volunteer at beaches or riverways or usually around water, but because we do not want packaging, plastics, anything in the environment. And so Pulling Our Weight has been a really fun activity. In fact, that was one of my first things I did when I moved to Houston and joined our plastics team, was do a beach cleanup on the Gulf Coast. And so it's been a tradition in our business for years. And so, that's definitely something that people could easily do as well as families. Even, we've done it where we just go to the dog park and we take our dog out, but then I'm picking up litter at the same time. And so just being aware and, making sure that the last thing we want is packaging in the environment. And so that's another activity you could do. And just, I think, also other ways to, just get people engaged, I think is really important.
So important, so valuable, so needed. And it's a teachable moment for our youth and for everyone of every age. Look, we can affect positive change together. And it's time to step up and do it. Let's stop the negativity and start making positive changes that we can do ourselves, like store drop off for recycling, like
Right.
Pull Your Weight. That's a brilliant name. I love that. Dow is doing some innovative work in sustainable packaging as well. Can you speak to that a little bit, like the materials you guys are developing that are recyclable?
Absolutely. So, we set some very aggressive goals last year, and they're called, we want to stop the waste and then close the loop. And so on Stop the Waste, we committed by 2030 1 million metric tons of plastic that will be collected and reused or recycled. And so we definitely don't want it in the environment, but if you're going to collect it, then what are you going to do with it, right? And so one of the offerings is that we take films that are collected. A lot of people aren't aware, but all those pallets that come into your retailer, that stretch film, it's collected and that has value. And so we take that from a recycler, and then we've actually taken our formulations with some, high performing resins and put 70% of the recycled content in and compound it together. And then we sell it as a one pellet solution. It's almost like a concentrate where it can go back into like collation shrink or other applications. So you can actually have recycled content back in your package. And it's more high performing. And, that's one of the challenges of mechanical recycling, is it's not always easy to process the material back in. And so that's a way that you can have a sustainable solution and get recycled content in and have a second use for that package, that plastic. So that's one. We were inaugural funders of the Closed Loop Circular Plastics Fund, which is a way that we can really show and invest where infrastructure is lacking or technology is lacking. And so having projects and funding, that's part of the problem always is the education part, but then the whole infrastructure part as well. So that's another thing in sustainable packaging, working very closely on, making packages more recyclable. And that's where our Close the Loop goal fits in. By 2035, 100% of the products that we sell will be reusable or recyclable. And so that's a big deal, because even though the products in my segment are almost all recycled, there are other parts of food packaging that aren't. And so we know that, we have work to do. And so we want to either, find solutions, or we may have to exit some too, and are fully aware that, having, recyclable packaging and having these kind of options are really important. So.
Absolutely. Well said. It's exciting how companies are picking up the torch and running forward
Yeah.
to make positive changes.
Yeah.
And 100% of all the packaging that you make will be recyclable. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
it's not 45% maybe, it's all the way.
Right. Well,
And
recyclable or reusable. And,
right.
you see all the brands have really aggressive goals too. And so we recognize the importance that we want to be able to support them and provide that to the market. And so it's critical. And, they're definitely, their goals are even for 2025. Like, we've got a lot of work to do in the next, 3 to 5 years or 8. So
It'll be here before we know it.
I
And
know, it's crazy.
it's
Yeah.
an exciting time to be a part of packaging, like you said. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else can we do to help move circular economy forward? What's the consumer's role here, or people like us in the packaging world?
Yeah. Yeah. So, one thing is, let's talk about making packaging more recyclable first of all. So then we can talk about how the consumer then can act is. So, one of the challenges, especially with food packaging, is to be able to have like the shelf life that you want and to keep it fresh, is that you need to have performance. And so with that, a lot of the flexible packaging, which has a great story in the sense of it has a lower carbon footprint, and it uses so much less material than aluminum can or other packaging types, because it's much thinner and such. But at the same time, because you want to have those properties, it usually has multi-materials in it, and so then it's harder to recycle. And so that's been a real challenge. You're using less material, but it might not be recyclable, versus some other packaging materials might be thicker or use more packaging material, but maybe they're more readily recyclable, like a plastic jar or bottle or something. And so it's a trade-off. But with the flexible packaging, the things that are really exciting is that there are technologies and developments where you can simplify those structures now. And with things like compatibilizers, we have one called Retain that enables you to actually have a film structure with a barrier in it to keep your product, fresh. But then when it gets to be recycled in store drop off, that compatibilizer will actually help it to break down, and it can still be reused, the packet, the material. And so
Wow.
really exciting. And so Bare Naked granola was one that we launched a couple years ago, and it's definitely one of my favorites. And I love that I can actually then put it in my bag of bags that I keep under the sink that I take for the store drop off. And so, in that bag is my towel and tissue overwrap. It's my, my collation shrink that was in a case of water or a soda, and my Amazon bubble wrap. I just cut off the label and put it in that bag, or my air pillows that came in a box. My daughter stomps on them. She loves to pop. Then I make sure she puts them in my bag of bags. And then once a month, or, I just take it back with me when I go to one of the grocery stores, and they all have drop-offs. And so I think the second part is knowing that you can take all of that back and take it to the store. So one thing that a couple of years ago, I just was like, I'm going to post a video of this. And so I took a video of myself, and I was like, hey, I'm here at the grocery store, and like, this is what's in my bag of bags. And I put it on my personal social media, and I put it on LinkedIn. And my colleague, Chris Gandy, saw it, and he's like, hey, I can do that too. And he kind of took it as a challenge. That wasn't my intent, but he took it on as a challenge, and it got momentum. And so our communications team's like, hey, let's make something out of this. So I think it was 2 years ago for America Recycles Week, we did a whole challenge, and we got a lot of input. We got other brands, we got customers engaged, we got our CEO, he did one, and it was super fun. Little did I have that intent when I did that first video, but I really do think it's finding opportunities like that where we can just do quick, educate our friends, our neighbors, our family that these things are recyclable and they have value. And so I don't know, that's one idea I have for you. Is there something that you've done recently? I love some of your TikToks, and they're concise and succinct and like just letting people know what to do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's been a labor of love. I've made over 1,200 videos about sustainable packaging in the last 12 months. And
that's a lot.
It's amazing the response you'll get. And a lot of people don't respond on the app. They tell me in person, which is so funny.
Oh,
or or they'll email me like, hey, I saw your video, I really liked it.
That's awesome.
It's like we're teaching one person at a time, or through video, through pictures, all kinds of social media channels. So what you're doing is so valuable. And I'm hoping to do my part for America Recycles Day and beyond. It's an exciting event because, like you said, it brings attention to it, and hopefully people will feel like you and I, a little bit of competitive nature, and they want to know.
I hope so.
Great.
So. Absolutely.
So I heard you say monomaterials. Are monomaterials the secret to sustainable packaging future?
That's a great question. I do think yes, but it's not a slam dunk because there are different packaging types for different applications. And I think, you need to use what's best. But I do think it simplifies a lot when it is. When you can have it's monomaterial, or if like you had a compatibilizer to keep a barrier in, if it had like an EVOH or something with polyethylene or something, I do think that really, really helps. And so, consumers are really, they know what to put in curbside for the most part. Though I'll admit, when I'm walking my dog on the day the recycling truck comes and people have their bins out, I kind of do an audit and I'm like, oh, that should be in there, But I think people really do know that the rigids things like that can go in the bins. And so right now films are recycled at the store in store drop off, and we need to educate as much as we can on. But there are some pilots out there, like the Materials Recovery for the Future did a pilot in Pennsylvania last year that we helped fund, and they actually put films in with in their bins, and we're able to sort them at the MRFs. And I think that's really valuable if we can. I think that's where consumers, they want it to be somewhat easy. And so I think with that, if you could have it monomaterial and then have easier collection, I think those together would be winning for sure. And there's a lot of money that needs to be involved in infrastructure. I think the other thing is that there's a lot of disparity. Like a lot of neighborhoods don't have access to recycling. And if they do, it's just so fragmented. Even, it's not by states, it's by communities, it's like by neighborhoods, and so there's so much fragment. I do think, if we could help really the infrastructure that would be the other part of the educating part. And so, but to your question on the monomaterial, if we could have monomaterial, that does help. And then from there, you could, just to simplify whatever, all the steps would just take some complexity out. We even have resin that for the closure on a lot of bottles are high density polyethylene, but the closure is polypropylene. And so not every area does, collects polypropylene. And so with that's an opportunity as well, where we have a new grade that performs like a polypropylene and molds like but the closure could be polyethylene. And so another way, we've seen a trend for even rigid packaging to have it all monomaterial. So not just on the film side, but even in rigids. And so it's pretty exciting.
That's a game changer. And
absolutely.
I think the work you guys are doing is so valuable for the whole packaging world and all the communities involved. But you're right. We have to make it easy. We have to make it simple. We have to educate people. Yeah. Store drop off is a great first step to, I love that you said your bag of bags under the sink. I've got the same thing. And my kids know not to put stuff like that in the garbage that goes in recycle. And they're proud of that. I think it's an important thing. I like the idea of going to teach their school about that. So that'll be my next step.
Yeah, send a note to their science teacher. I just emailed her and offered. And in fact, I have a fifth grader this year. And so I'm gonna go that week and teach the fifth grade again. And so I'm really excited to be invited back to do that.
It's an honor to have that opportunity to speak to our youth, I think. And
I
so
fully agree, because they're the ones that get it, and they really, really do want to improve, like their mom, like, we have to save the planet, like, and of course that's why we're doing it too, right? Is we
Yeah.
want, we want to make our mark and help leave, the planet in a better place for our kids. So of course, I'm excited they feel that energy.
Yeah, it's almost contagious, I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. This has been an awesome episode. I'd like to thank Dow Packaging and Specialty Plastics for sponsoring this episode. And Heather, you're so brilliant, and I appreciate you. And I can't wait to talk to you again. Maybe we'll do a follow-up in 6 months and see how America Recycles Day has affected, you and your company.
I would love that. That would be awesome, Cory. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.